And do I show up in color for you?
Yeah, you are. You
I'm
are.
looking at I'm looking at a dull black and white image of myself that's lagging behind.
Well, we're rolling now, so we're okay. Good morning, everybody. It's just about 11 o'clock. Look at David and I are early. We're out of hair and makeup early. It's incredible. Yeah, we're. David just asked the age-old question: do I look dim? You look brilliant, David. You look brilliant. So, fighting with the internet as always. Historically, on the Friday closest to profit share, which we're just past it now. We're on the 24th. Profit share hits mailbox money. Usually hits your mail. We call it mailbox money. It usually hits your bank account right around the 21st is when it gets disseminated. We're going to talk about the mechanics of that. We're going to talk about success that David Williams has had with it, but we want to talk about profit share when we have an opportunity to on a monthly basis, as close to the 21st as possible. So it didn't necessarily just come out of nowhere. These are the funds that you're receiving from the help that you're offering, being a partner with the Market Center based on last month's math. But we'll get to that in a second. David Williams is joining us. He's got a great story, and I'm going to let you tell that, David. First and foremost, because some people have the pleasure of knowing you, but not everybody in our Market Center has. So as people trip over this, maybe with their box of wine over the weekend, and they're like, oh, what does David have to tell us? Let people know where you grew up, where you live now, and what you were doing before you got into real estate, if you would.
Sure. So originally from the Washington D.C. area in Maryland, just outside of D.C., and grew up there, and went to college to study music as a conductor, and spent most of my life as a church music director and director of community choruses, and
Mm-hmm.
had a stint in politics in Maryland for a while, and state legislature as a chief of staff for a member of the House, and that was informative because it told me what I never wanted to do again, was to be in politics. Um, and then moved to New Hampshire in 2017. We moved here and bought a bed and breakfast.
Hmm.
I left big pharma corporate craziness, and I tell people I was in jail for 9.5 years in Cambridge, Mass, at a pharmaceutical company, and moved to beautiful New Hampshire and have this historic bed and breakfast, and had wanted to do real estate for a long time, and just before COVID started, which was a great time to actually to do that, as you know,
Mm.
and chose Keller Williams. There was no question that when I was looking at companies and read Keller Williams' history story and a little bit about what this company stands for, it was a no brainer. So,
Yeah, I appreciate that you did your research. I always remind everybody I don't really have a great story on how I got here. I just trusted Nate for better or for worse. And then when I got here and I saw on the wall, I saw God Family Business, and like all the things fell into place for me. Had you thought about real estate before pharma
yes,
and politics and
yes.
all that kind of stuff? In what regard? Like was it a passing thought or something you always said maybe at some point if I have time?
It was not a passing thought. It was, I really thought this was something that I would, that I wanted to do, and that I thought I would be good at. I don't have a problem talking to people.
Mm.
Maybe the problem I have is that I don't know when to stop talking. So there's that.
Guilty as
um,
charged. Me too.
Guilty as
Yeah.
charged.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I just I like there was so much about real estate that I liked, and
Mm.
the idea of it. And I had friends, when I was in Maryland who were realtors, and I saw what they were doing. I thought, well, that one day that might be something. And my pilgrim's journey kept taking me to a different place and a different place. And then finally the time was right, and I said, I'm going to do this. If I don't do it now, when? And so I did, and here I am.
Yeah. So to go from I guess the other transition to like what it's almost like a sitcom. It's like you get up to New Hampshire and you're like gonna grab a bed and breakfast while we're at it. Like what brought that on to go from politics and big pharma to and I'm going to say hospitality. Is hospitality restaurants aren't
Sure.
hospitality. Restaurants are retail. Hospitality is hotels and bed and breakfast. Correct? Yeah. Yeah.
So similar to real estate, I had friends in Annapolis, Maryland, when I was in working in the legislature there, that had this glorious bed
Mm,
and breakfast. And so for 20 years, I kept thinking, "Oh, well, that is something I want to do," and people knew that, And so
mm.
I think having a great job in big pharma allowed me to then retire. As my husband says,
Yeah.
"You're retired now." I don't really feel retired. I don't know why, but because I don't stop. Um, but when the time was right, we started looking, and we found this inn that just had is in such a great area and a great state, and the time is right to you know have a better life.
Mm.
My blood pressure is down, my heart rate is down. I don't have nightmares. I don't, really.
The
It,
irony is when you were working with Big Pharma, all of that was through the roof.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, terrifyingly so.
Yeah.
And so I have a much better existence here. We have a better life here.
Yeah.
Um, we get to meet really wonderful people who come in on a regular basis. We
Mm.
have a number of return guests. That that part of hospitality, and I think that's also translates into what I do in church as a music director, working with choirs and parishioners, and also in real estate. Obviously,
Yeah.
looking after and taking into account what others' needs are.
So so you leave Big Pharma, you take all your drug money and you buy a bed and breakfast, which is exciting. And you're obviously that's got to be a big part of your day. The real estate. We're going to talk about profit share and your focus on that as well. Uh, what does your husband do for work, or is he the brains behind the operations when it comes to
Well,
the bed and breakfast?
he's definitely the brains behind the operation. I mean, this was not his dream at all. He is a mechanical engineer and is still a mechanical engineer, working. He's in fact in his office right around the corner, working right now.
So the
Um,
muffins in the morning are perfect.
they absolutely, you have no idea. But he is the one that has developed all of these new recipes and all of this. Suddenly a box appears and what's this? And oh, these are the new dishes we need to serve this. So he's expanded the menu and taken that on in a brilliant way, and is really marvelous at juggling being a mechanical engineer and um, and this inn. It's really really wonderful.
So when if a guest is there, and not I'm not saying that he wouldn't be the warmth, but you might be more of the warmth and the conversation. He is no stone unturned. He's the perfect is done. Yes.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
and he's great with guests too. Much more shy than I am, and
Mm,
much happier I think being in the kitchen,
sure.
where and that's not unusual in a situation like this. Usually, one is the front facing person who, you know, is that connection to the guests, and the other one who is, drawing up the spreadsheets to make sure that I'm on track with what I need to do. So
Yeah. Mechanical engineer. Where did you meet?
in Boston, in
In
Boston,
Boston. Okay. All right. You were his drug dealer at the time. Is that
I was
big
just trying
part of it?
to get him through being an engineer. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Something to slow down the heart rate, which apparently didn't work for you. All right, so you get up here. You've got your bed and breakfast. What town are you? Is your bed and breakfast located in? Just so everyone can know, and the name, so they can direct people over there.
We're in the bustling city of Campton.
Mm.
It's right near Owl's Nest. So I know you come here
Oh
for
my God, you're
you love
speaking
Owl's
my
Nest.
language. Yeah, it's
Yes,
such a great golf course.
it is a beautiful. Well, the whole thing, the golf course, but just the whole property, how they're
Yeah, it's
building that,
gorgeous.
developing is just really remarkable. It's quite a jewel here. Um, but although Campton doesn't have a lot of things here, being that we're 20 minutes to the White Mountains and 20 minutes to the Lakes region for guests, it provides.
Yeah.
It was a great choice. We looked at other places and we thought, well, what are people going to do here? Well, there's nothing to do, and luckily we are in a great place for people.
Yeah, I guess the other. I mean, obviously, it was an investment, and for a couple to be like, okay, we're going to get an investment property, but you also knew there was going to be an employment element to it as well. Like,
Mhm.
how long did that conversation go on that you were figuring that this was the right move for the two of you? Because, like you said, he's still working. You knew you were going to be doing real estate. Like, What did that look like, and how bustling was it? What the bed and breakfast before you bought it? There was a book of business. There were people that probably came back to see you, and you were new owners, right? So you had also a sort of a standard to live up to as well. Was there some pressure there?
We, yes and no. I mean, the inn is 35 years, and we sort of rebuilt the business. When we bought the business, there were only 2 reservations on the books, and I thought, oh, God, I'm going to be eating ramen noodles and drinking, water out of the pond because I'll be poor. But the when the decision came, we actually went to a conference on innkeeping. I said, Trevin, if you like this, great, we'll move ahead. If you find this is not something you want to do, then we won't. And he dove right in, and here we are, 8 years later.
Interesting. So you did like a master class. We're either going to be intrigued or we're going to hate the idea. Okay.
Yeah. And they do this thing where they pretty much tell you all the take off the rose-colored glasses.
Sure.
It's not just muffins and wine and cheese in the afternoon and chatting. Yep. There's the morning starts and it doesn't stop. It's all day when there are people in the house.
Sure. What's the just to, I guess, let us in behind the curtain a little bit. What's your fondest memory thus far being owners?
We've developed a number of friendships with guests who have come back multiple times a year for 5-6 years.
Sure.
And so when you have people come back and the arms are open and it's hugs and welcome home, and that's incredibly rewarding that we've created this space where people feel safe.
Yeah.
After COVID, when people started coming back, we would have guests who would come and they didn't want to go anywhere. They just wanted to sit in the living room and read a book or watch a movie because they just needed 4 new walls to look at.
Yeah, new paint to stare at. Yes.
Yep. New paint to stare at. And so for us, it was this feeling of we were providing this safe space for people to come. And it was incredibly cathartic for them and meaningful for them to have that.
Yeah.
So it's those kinds of moments, when people come and you get to be a part of their lives.
I can imagine it's rewarding. There's a great book, which I'm sure you've read, Will Guidara. It's called Unreasonable Hospitality. And
I've heard of it.
Yeah, in the book, there's a phenomenal story he tells in the book. He, at the time, and I forget the name of the restaurant, phenomenal restaurant in New York City. And he said one of the nicest compliments you can get is when guests arrive with their luggage. It means you were either their first destination or they didn't want to miss you before they left town, right? And he said it was always such an honor to see people arrive with their luggage because you knew it was like they couldn't wait to get there or they didn't want to miss it. And I'm sure you feel the same way when you got people that are maybe booking with you as they're leaving to come back.
We have people who, as they're leaving, book their next year or their next stay. Yep,
that's very cool. So I was fortunate enough to drag you on, Zachary Eaton, who's on the our committee for growth and to discuss profit share with the Associate Leadership Council, is busy taking care of the book of business for one Krista Lombardi because she has possibly a more dire addiction to Disney than Nathan Dickey does. So she's down there with her family again. So Zach was swept away. He was hoping to be here with us as well, but I brought you on ultimately, and as people can see on FaceSpace, we're here to talk about profit share. You've really been purposeful about your conversations and your involvement with it. If people don't know, I reference her a lot. Linda McKissick, I've got so many of my pearls of wisdom from her conversations. I was fortunate enough in Coach's Skills Camp a few years ago to be sitting with her it's a 3-day camp, and I sat with her for one whole day. And she probably was like, get me away from this kid, because I was trying to, I didn't have my baby with me, but I was trying to get her to sign my baby because she had said so many brilliant things and I was just fawning all over her. And the one thing that, she's rented space in my head with one line she uses when I'm having my best conversations about the opportunity of coming to play with us. She goes, I try to keep KW out of my mouth. I just try to talk about my experience in a very white box way and keep questioning them about their experience without slamming KW on top of everything. And the reason I reference her, I know that you're involved with the system that she's put together with Press, their son, We can certainly touch upon that, but I want to talk about for you when you said you did your research and KW was a no-brainer for you. What was the initial thing about KW that made sense to to power your business here?
Well, I had gone on. I'd read about Gary Keller, and I'd read about KW and the length of history of this company, and just some of the things that it stands for, like the communities that we have. Whether it's the veterans communities, whether it's Latino communities, whether obviously the LGBT, the Rainbow Network is important to me, and has led to some really wonderful conversations about Keller Williams and its openness to accept and demand acceptance almost in across the board. That there is not a gray area in that regard. And just it's one of the truly great companies out there, not just in real estate. And I believe that, and I believe that's the leadership. That's what we have in the leadership that we have, whether we're talking about Gary Keller or Mark King or Nate Dickey or you, or it is just a phenomenal group of people. And but I read about it and then experienced it, and so there's never been a moment where I thought, oh no, why did I? No, nope. It has been a great coming up on 4 years in July.
So I'm sure in your conversations joining KWCLM, you heard about profit share. You might have experienced it in other corporations you've worked with. When did the light switch for you that you knew this was going to be a serious stream of passive income for you and your family?
Well, so I would have to back up on that, in that it wasn't. I did not hear about profit share. And I think that is one of the areas that we're missing out on. And I think it's 6 to 8%, 6 or 8%, not 68%.
Yeah.
Of KW agents participate in profit share.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me that it is such a no-brainer that, and so, I mean, I knew that Erica Sakin was my sponsor and Sandy Lucci was her sponsor, and I knew all that, but I didn't understand how to build that or what that would lead to, or what, and not just for me personally, but it's also about, we can talk more about this, but, just helping to spread the word and build the company from within like that.
Yeah.
And so there was a day, and sometimes these days happen, and you realize that you are grateful that your eyes and ears were open, and that the angels on your shoulders were guiding you. And I saw this meeting thing a meeting show up on in the mail, in email, for a profit share discussion, profit share mastery class. Yeah, see what this is. As I've always. So it was 2 summers ago that I clicked on that and watched, and it was an immediate, this has to happen. This can't be, because there were so many reasons why I was intrigued, and it obviously the financial opportunities for profit share as time goes. It is not a get rich quick thing. It builds over time, as you know.
Yeah.
It builds over time. And because you have to, just think about where we are, how challenging it is to be in real estate. And so it's not, you don't go in saying, well, I'm going to get Tim into this company and he's going to just kill it and make me a millionaire. No, that's not what it's about. Right.
Right.
And the great thing about this is that it was Linda McKissick and Press McKissick, who are just two lovely human beings. I don't have to, they're phenomenal people. And their love for this company, their love for people, and all of that is clear in every mastermind, every podcast. And so it was just clear to me that's where I needed to focus on. But that's how I learned about it.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I remember having met Linda, and when you're at a national event or any event for that matter, you're going to see probably Linda and Press. They're doing most of the talking. Jimmy McKissick, Mr. McKissick, is always somewhere nearby. He's about, I can say this because I'm a short Irishman. He's about 3'9", and always a huge smile on his face. And if you're wondering why he's smiling, here's a story to share. When they joined, and I'm going to get the details jammed up a little bit, so I'm not going to go too deep. I know when they joined, they had a multitude of investment properties. And at the time they joined Keller Williams, they were upside down in, I think, almost every one of them. And just through the systems and the models of KW, they righted that ship. They became passionate about profit share. And I remember I feel like it was last year, but I know at this point it was probably 4 or 5 years ago. They had a July that I believe their profit share passive income was like $187,000 or something. And when you think about that, and there's a great story of one of the original agents that joined with Gary, and when Gary put together the ALC, which wasn't the ALC yet, but he got his top agents because Remax was basically plucking agents out of his office back in the day. This is like 1985 after opening in 83. And he's got, his top agents sitting there, and that's when they decided that profit share was a thing because there needed to be something beyond your last check when you stepped away. Capping would be a thing, and all these things were brought to light. And Linda had come and joined us for one of our cultural sessions years ago when I was an agent, and Althea Osborne was also there. And Althea Osborne is one of those agents that was in that room with Gary ages ago. And somebody in New England asked Althea, because she had her book with her, and some people that have profit share, they call it, some people have enough profit share that when some offices print it, that needs a big staple. And Althea Osborne is amongst the group that needs like one of those big black clips that you put over your chips before you put them back in the pantry. And they said, what do you have to do? She goes, keep talking to people, have honest conversations, and wait. To your point, right? Like you're not going to get David Williams and Nate Dickey and 2 other people to join and be rolling it in a year. It's about stacking talent and changing lives. And with that, I'm going to ask you your first check, sir. How big or small was your first check?
I think it's about $3.96.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. And that's because that was somebody who had a referral,
Sure.
It was just a small, but it was the first one. And so, but that $3.96 was fabulous.
Yeah.
And so and there are months where there isn't a check, market centers have been very, under in past months. And so it's just started, coming back into play.
Yeah.
In addition to listening to Linden Press and through the Profit Share Mastery program they've created, and we can get back to that. But the other person I think is phenomenal is Aaron Kaufman.
Yep.
And he's a great the KW evangelist, self-appointed evangelist. He's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
But one of the things that he says that those little lines that stick in your head, to your point about what Linda said, was, I am tethered to the process and not to the results.
Yeah. Yep.
In other words, I know that the process of me bringing people to KW, the team leads in the offices, building those people's lives, will then lead to profit share for me down the road. And in so doing, teaching them how to do the same for them. Because if you look at Linda, I think she has 30 people in her first level downline right now. And yet she's got a multi-million-dollar, I think she's at 1.7 million lifetime profit share. She's got 30 in her level 1, right? So you teach them to build, to do what you're doing. And the system that they've created makes it so easy because I don't have to go, it's hard enough to go talking to find people who want to buy and sell real estate, but then at the same time, but their mastery program, which allows you to run ads across the country and have phone calls with people and conversations with people, and to come into their lives and offer them hope of a new career and a different life and a better life is phenomenal.
Yeah, to Kaufman's point, we have to, and you can correlate what we're doing with our profit share conversations to our business conversations, right? And I have always, hopefully said it enough that people start to hear me when I say, listen, we need to be talking about, do people want to buy, sell, invest, or join, right? Because all of those things can move our financial needle. And to what he said, that adage that we should be hearing every day when our feet hit the ground after we jump out of bed is, I need to be excited for the opportunity and not attached to the outcome. Right. And these are nurture conversations. If you have a top producer that's playing at another brokerage right now, it's not going to be a random phone call at 11:23 on a sunny Friday going into a holiday weekend. They're like, "Oh, David, thank God you called. Come help me with my desk. I'll move right now." Right? For our wily veterans, these are big strategic conversations, and these are, emotional moves too. Because the number one thing you hear if you are talking to a producer is, I'm loyal to Nathan Dickey, or I'm loyal to broker X, Y, or Z. And, the conversation beyond that is, well, have you considered, from a business standpoint, are you loyal to yourself and to your family, right? Now, you mentioned that I know some people's ears are going to perk up when you said that. The process that McKissicks have put together really does systematize it for you, because I think people like, God, I'm having trouble making my phone calls to get to my next kitchen table for my next listing. When could I possibly find time to find a person who might want to join real estate? And we also get very limiting beliefs around who might consider it, when I'm pretty sure right now there's two gentlemen on this very broadcast who were doing other things before real estate. Like, we have to remind ourselves, how did you get here? And that's usually the sexiest story, is when you tell people about how you decided real estate was the right fit for you. So in your growth tree right now, you referenced that Linda McKissick has 30 in her front line. I think the great Mo Anderson would say, you should be pursuing that 12 to 16 number. And then you just let talent beget talent, and it continues to grow underneath you. For you, who was the first person you put in your growth tree, and how did that come to pass?
That was through the Profit Share Mastery Program.
Awesome.
And by reaching out to people, it wasn't anyone that I had ever met before.
Mm-hmm.
That was someone completely new to me, right? And it came from a phone call and a conversation. And those first conversations were, kind of not scary, but a little uncomfortable, because you didn't know how to present. And so over time, you just learn how to, one, let them talk, and let them listen to where they are and what their needs are. And you realize that Keller Williams has such a great solution for so many of those needs. It has an answer to those needs.
Yeah.
And I know, press will say, don't throw up Keller Williams all over people, but there is a great story, and if you listen to what people are talking about, you can cherry pick those things that you think might be the most impactful for them and might resonate with them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fine line. I love that you brought that up, because press says that to you, as Linda says, had said it to me the day I sat with her, and I had heard her say that before that. The more we can keep the KW out of our, we can talk about our experience, and obviously it goes without saying that we're having that experience at KW, but we do fall on that nerve sword just as a company in general, because we're the company that we're open book, we run zero debt, one of our red badges of courage is we spend zero on marketing as a company, right? It's incumbent upon the agent to promote themselves and their business, and in that gap is, well, we don't tell the story, so we're not good at it. I don't script, so I'm not well scripted. I don't make my calls, so I'm not good on the phone. And so in that gap where we don't have that fast twitch muscle of telling our story, sometimes, when we get to the point of telling the story or of our experience, because we're doing that needs analysis, to your point, finding out the other agents, whether they're considering joining real estate and KW, or they're considering making a move from their brokerage, in listening to the needs analysis to pepper in, our feel, felt, found, and making sure that we're clicking our experience here back to their experience there, so we have some similarities, but we can also show, there is an opportunity here. Like you said, stands to reason, no matter what they're up against in their environment, there's probably a cure for it here, and we just have to keep our ears open for that, but not fail to talk about the great story that we do have here. I need you to tell the story, because I was so impressed when you told it, and I think it's really powerful. You referenced the rainbow community, and one of the things, it's really funny, a couple of years ago when COVID was happening, I think we actually officially made it happen like last year, but we sort of joked. There's a group of us that just kept golfing together, and we finally dubbed it the KGA, the Keller Golf Association. And when I had my dear friend April make the logo for us, she sent it back and she was like KGA, and she put established 2023. I said, well, actually it was established in 2022, but I wanted to look established. So make it say 1922, right? Just as a joke. And 22 is my favorite number. So we've had this going now for a few years, but we like branded it last year. And now there's a KW golf group, right? And my point in bringing that up is, and that guy actually reached out to me last week. He's like, we got to get on the phone. I want to hear all about your thing. I'm like, I don't know if you want to hear all about my thing, but sure, we'll talk golf. And there, all these communities, it's really important for people to understand. And this is what I blame it on. I think to your point about COVID and coming back from COVID, and you talked about the people at your bed and breakfast that were just looking for a different space to be. When COVID hit, it took away from so many people their feeling of community at their church. Some people never went back. Some people's, dart leagues, bowling leagues, whatever. Some things just never overcame that due to financial ruin in the gap or whatever the case may be. So we have so many people in America that are going back to their companies looking for, their faith and their family and their community. And for a lot of companies, it's not there. And I think that's the proliferation of it happening here at KW is we knew there was that gap, and there was a space here where we could do that because we are proud to have in our lobby God family business, and we coach to the person, and we want to create a lifestyle here that serves everyone's needs. You said that you had been running, this is through the system, I believe, that with the McKissicks, correct? That you had met an individual and you were sharing some information, and you fired off the information to this individual. And of course, in that email was your entire signature block, along with your membership to the Rainbow community. And tell us about that story and the conversation you had when that person called you back.
Well, this person came to me through an ad on Indeed. We run these ads, and they book
Sure.
time, and so you don't know anything about them. But in the conversation, we can sort of sense, oh wait, this is a kindred spirit, if you will.
Sure.
And, in West Virginia, in a place that you know that there are people who struggle every day with being who they are.
Yeah. Sure.
In many parts of the country, not just West Virginia,
Sure.
but anyway. And so I will often recommend some of the blogs, the great podcasts that we have, not blogs, podcasts. And so I said, well, let me recommend a couple. I'll send these to you right now, so you can just let me know that you got this email. And in my signature is the KW Rainbow Network banner, rainbow colors and shiny and all that.
Yep.
And so I said, can you check to make sure you got the email? And he said, sure. So he said, yeah, I got that. He said, what is this? What is this? And I said, oh, well, this is a Keller Williams, endorsed right out from headquarters, an incredible organization of close to 4,600 at that time. I'm sure there are more now. Agents in this thing that started as a referral network, but has become this incredible advocacy organization, on rights and things in every state, and support for each other, and just community and shared values and shared interests. And we have weekly Zoom meetings and events that are part of our big national events.
Yeah.
He was just blown away by that was something that was possible. And then it turned out that the person I was forwarding his information to was also a member of the network.
That's
team
awesome.
lead in that office.
Oh, that's great.
And so she was able to pick up, and so it sort of solidified for him that this was a safe place. And it's really sad in 2024 we're still talking about needing safe spaces. And do.
Yep.
And what an honor it is to be able to share that, it is. I mean, this is, and I don't say that lightly, an honor to share that. It is a
Yeah.
privilege to be able to provide that for another human being. And each, so many of these calls are just these great human stories of, where they're coming from, what they're doing, and why they want to make a change in their life. And
Yeah.
so that was one person that, was affected, deeply by that. So,
Yeah. Back to, when you had done your research, and, I willingly tell the story that I didn't. I just came here because I knew I trusted Nate, and then everything sort of fell into place. I mean, I'm so grateful for that. I've only ever been here. This July, our company turns 20 on July 1st. Nate's little project here, and July 1st for me will be 14 years here. And in my role, obviously, when the door shuts or we're on a Zoom, and people are just like, so I can talk about this, right? This doesn't leave this room. This doesn't leave the Zoom. And I'm like, listen, I've been here 14 years. I'm closing in. I'm in my 9th year as the coach. I said, I know where all the bodies are buried. We could talk about anything, And the other side of that, there's no bodies, just so people aren't freaking out. It's not going to be an episode of Dateline. The other side of that is the God family business, and a piece of, my conversations with Nate stepping into this role was that we could just have these very open conversations. And when I'm talking to an agent that I know has a faith background, whether it's, Irish Catholic like me, and I always say Irish Catholic because we specialize in guilt, but like whether it's Irish Catholic or just any faith, and when I know I can have that open conversation and speak to them as a servant of God, and if that empowers them to go pick up the phone or talk to the next person at Hannah Foods or whatever, that is such a great way for me to fill my cup and know that I left, I moved the needle for somebody. And I think that's a big part of why this company, I know for you and for me, is such a great place to just be able to be transparent, be your authentic self, and really fall in love with the process and be excited about the opportunity and not connected to the outcome, as Aaron Kaufman had said. So for you, go ahead.
Oh, there was another person I connected, speaking about the God family country, out on the West Coast, who is in his mid-20s and in the LGBTQ community in some fashion or another, and had some, he said, I'm seeing the God family country thing, and it made him nervous because his family, who believed very much in God family and country, said, no, you're no longer, here, right? This is not where So I was able to say, yes, we are, but it's God family country that accepts all of this, and we're all part of this. There's no, and so again, that was another person who, the people I've talked to the second, and that I was able to say, look, we are everything. It's not just one size fits all.
Yep. So we're having this conversation. There's an agent in our ecosystem that's going to watch this later today or maybe next week and be like, okay, so David Williams is doing the bed and breakfast thing. He's doing his agent thing. He's doing the profit share thing. Like, what does your calendar look like? What does a typical day look like for you, where you're going to dip your beak into all three of those disciplines and make it make sense and still have time, for you guys to have some time for dinner and to take a walk and to have a normal life? Because it sounds like just one more thing you're stacking on top of your first thing at KW that might be a little arduous or a limiting belief for people. So talk to us about that.
So, well, first, we're very intentional about setting time aside to go and shut everything down. We don't have people come and watch the inn while we're gone. That's too stressful. So we have, we just close the inn down. I close my calendar down. Trevin closes his, and we take trips. And we try to do that every 3 or 4 months just to get away, so that you can be fresh with everything. Especially when you've got as many things going on. During the September to June, I'm also director of music at Plymouth Church in Plymouth, New Hampshire. So there's that aspect of my life as well. And so I first go through and I look at the news in the morning, the KNEWS email, and I go through that, and I go into the hub, which is phenomenal, by the way, and map out the month, and I put make sure everything that I want to do is on that. Perfect. And then I go into my profit share mastery calendar, and I also look at the in calendar. Like when are we going to be, like maybe the end of bike week isn't the time for me to book 30 calls, because it's a little loud here. And I go into and I just set my calendar in the Profit Share Mastery and run my ads on Indeed, and people fill those slots that I've set aside for that. So I try to prioritize, obviously the in being the business here, and I really can't say to church, no, we can't do that at 9:30 on Sunday morning. I've got a call to make. So
Right.
those
right.
are blocked, and then I just fill in where I can. And there are days when I have 8, 10, 12 phone calls for profit share for recruiting.
Okay.
And I try to think of it not as so much profit share as recruiting.
Yeah,
Because that's
1,000%.
what
Sure.
really, that's really the focus. If you make it the focus about profit share, that's kind of unseemly.
I love that you said that. I 4,000% agree. I've had agents that have come in and sat with me over the years, and they're like, really going to focus on profit share this year. And I'm like, nope. Nope, that is the worst idea, because the person who does, right, what you focus on expands, bold law, and not that that's not a good thing. The challenge is, right, if we talk about the 4 pillars of really the strength of our company, it's productivity, profitability, culture, and growth, right? If David is doing the damn thing, he's also earning. If he's selling and earning, now his wallet is full, he's booking his next vacation, and there's a smile on his face, right? There's the culture. And then the growth comes from the people either on the outside or civilians who are thinking about joining real estate and looking for the right place, or a friend of yours who might play across the street at a different brokerage who's noticing he's productive, he's profitable, he's smiling, right? And that's the attraction. So I think the important thing for people to remember is if we just get to work, that puts you in that. We talk about Pareto principle all the time in the big rocks. 20% of the agents are doing 80% of the business. If you're constantly have some sort of a deal going in real estate, you're going to be rubbing elbows with the people that are productive on a consistent basis for the most part. And that will attract, talent begets talent again, as we always say. For you, where's your first line now? That if we're going to be comparing, so you've got Linda McKissick says she's at 30. Where are you at right now?
So this month is 42.
Wow.
This month added 6. I added 6 this month, but the best part was that nobody dropped off, because every now and you
Yes.
won, maybe
Yes.
just and it's because it's challenging. I mean, this is hard. This is not easy. This is
Yeah.
but my hope is that means that people are starting to feel a shift, especially outside of New England, where things are a little, there's more inventory, and there's
Sure.
so they're starting to get their feet wet and have a great experience, right? But 42, and then I've probably got another 17 in some sort of class, be it case 4 or CE shop or something. So they're currently in class, and about another 11 that are connected, and I'm just waiting for them to show up on the in the report. Right?
Yeah.
But when I look at the list of these, I keep a spreadsheet, right, so I can track where people are and what's going
Sure.
on. I got a text one night, Sunday night, 9:00. I had no idea what the number was, and he said, David, he said, it's my first month. He said, I'm in the office every day. He said, I'm happier when I leave than I was when I went in. He said, and I feel that everybody is vested in getting me up and running on to a better life. I still get a little choked when I think about that.
Yeah, that's great.
In some small way, I helped get this person connected to that path, right?
Yeah.
And so that's incredibly rewarding, right?
Yeah.
One morning, 6:00, I got a text message, 6:00 in the morning. David, what kind of laptop is best to get as a realtor? What I thought, it's kind of an 8:00 in the morning kind of text message, but you're up and ready to go, so we're going to sit down. And so I got up and we talked about laptops at 6:00.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you feel their excitement and their enthusiasm, it makes it all worthwhile.
I hope you didn't say Acer.
I did not.
We're gonna lose him. We're gonna lose him. Oh my God. Don't say Acer.
No. But, you know, Gary Keller talks about, you know, doing this, those who are successful do the monotonous things, that it is the
Yeah.
monotony. It is again
Yep.
and again and again. And there are times when it's the 10th, 11th, 12th phone call, and you think, oh my God, I just really
Yeah.
choked myself, you know. But you realize that the other person on that line has a need.
Oh,
And,
yeah. Yep.
and there are a lot of I've had phone calls where I've been I was a guy who was in a different company and who was just having a horrible experience, and I got off that phone call and I sat and it affected me deeply to hear his story, and I had to take a moment to just pull myself together, because
Yeah.
one, you feel bad for him, but then you feel really great for yourself because you're part of a company that would not make anyone feel that way.
You made a great point, the reference of the little things, and it's, you know, it's everything extraordinary that will happen in our careers lies in the mundane activities. Like, it's always, you know, I never, when I was selling, I never got the phone call from the client that, you know, maybe came in through Boomtown, and then, you know, this is before Command, that I put into my, you know, my market leader account, that then I was like communicating with. They never would call me and say, hey, we got everything all set, we're ready to go now. That was never happening when we were like celebrating, which we would have been doing today, 10 years ago. We were celebrating at the Portsmouth Brewery at a liquid lunch after a great closing. It was always when I was in my office, head down, hard up, doing the next right thing, that all that stuff would come back to me. So those are important. And yeah, and again, I'm glad you didn't say Acer, but like, that meant the world to them, because you're continuing to remind them, and you're proving to them that it was never transactional, right? It's always been about, I want to help you change your state, as Tony Robbins would say, and put you in an environment of people that are going to help you, you know, go on this journey. And then your job, when you get to a point where you feel, which anybody could start at any time, but when you feel ready, that you're bold enough to turn around and lend your hand to somebody else, that you'll do that. It is really important. So you talked about $3.89, which I love. What is the greatest mailbox money?
$3.96.
$3.96.
Don't forget those 4 pennies.
Yeah, don't $3.96. Very important. There'll be a quiz later. Your biggest check. When have you walked into the kitchen and said, "Guess what just happened?" Yeah.
Well, I remember when I hit the first over the 396, there was a 400, and then there was an 800, and then there was a 1600.
That's awesome.
So, you know, so you could feel the trajectory of things moving, and then after that, then there's nothing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but it's just the way things are, you know. And then
Yeah.
there's another one where there's more. So, but again, to Kaufman's point, it's the process. It's
Yeah.
going through it day by day. And,
Yep.
that there are bigger things than that.
Well, for clarity on that too, I think people get confused, and you know, quite often we will take this Profit Share Friday and talk about the mechanics. We're not doing that today because we're honored to have David Williams with us. Just so people understand, so how does David have that many people in his growth tree and have a month that shows a zero? Well, it's not even about the market centers that his people are involved in being profitable. It's about them being productive first, right? So any individual in a profit share system has to be productive in a month in which their market center is profitable for us to see any return on that relationship. So just so people understand, because I think some people are like, well, I've got people in my growth tree, I should be getting a check every month. Well, not if they're sound asleep at the wheel, right? And that is back incumbent upon us to stay in engagement with them and be like, hey, you know, Nate's going to be doing a roundtable in NOCO at 11 o'clock on Wednesday. Adam Dow's going to be here. Or if you get somebody out in Michigan, like, and that can turn into some homework too. But if you have a great relationship with the team leader there that helped keep you in that relationship to build your growth tree, that's a simple like, hey, what are the classes coming up that I can call Stacy to make sure her face is in so she keeps moving on this trajectory? And that's a huge opportunity too. Huge opportunity.
And then also you have to remember when people cap, then that's until their anniversary.
Until they roll. Yep.
There's nothing that doesn't show up in your profit share.
Yeah.
But you want to keep going because that's what they're doing, and that will lead to the next year. They'll even be faster to cap. So
So, of all the people in your growth tree, how many states have you covered outside of our market center?
Coast to coast. I mean, I mean, almost every state. I've talked to people. I mean, we're looking at a lot in California,
Mm.
Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Hawaii. A number of people in Hawaii, which makes me want to go visit them. And
Yeah, yeah, you got to go check it out. You got to make sure they
especially
got.
next
You got
January.
to go make sure they didn't buy an Acer, David. That's the reason you jump
Yeah,
on
yeah,
that
yeah,
plane. Yeah, yeah.
Tennessee, New York, Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio. I mean, Massachusetts, Connecticut,
Awesome.
Illinois, and now starting also because there's also growth share.
Yeah.
Uh, you know,
You
profit
overseas
share
yet,
in
sir?
the U.S.
Are
and
you
Canada.
overseas yet?
I am. I have two in Puerto Rico, and I connected two people. I don't know if they've come on board yet in South Africa.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Because this in the profit share mastery program when they did the version 2.0,
Mhm.
the ads on Indeed started going around the globe. So
Mm.
then you start seeing the WW worldwide, and so Lizette is fantastic in the worldwide office, KW Worldwide, and I just send them to her, and she does her thing. We'll see. And growth share is a different, there is
Yeah,
not a
growth
cap
shares
on
on
it,
revenue. It's quarterly and it's based on revenue. Yeah.
right? So it's 1% of their total. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it doesn't matter what it is. So
Yeah.
that's great. So and so being able to talk to people about that we're a global company, and
Yeah.
being able it's not an insignificant thing to have that opportunity.
Yeah. Very cool. So you brought up Hawaii. You talked about booking trips. What do the two of you do when you do want to unplug and go? Like, what is next on the books for you guys to unplug and go enjoy your hard work with real estate, your hard work with the bed and breakfast, everything that you've earned through profit share?
Well, I have a 24-year love affair with Cape Cod, and so
God bless you. I
summer,
love it.
my my spirit is renewed when I'm on the Cape,
Yeah.
when I cross that bridge.
Yep.
Um,
It's cathartic. Yes,
and
sir. Yeah.
normally the car goes straight to Provincetown, and
Yeah.
it's the joy, it's the beauty, it's the camaraderie, it's the restaurants, it's the people.
Yeah.
But the beauty of the Cape for me is the ocean makes me
Yeah.
happy. Thankfully, Trevin has helped me to steer the car in other places on the Cape than Provincetown. So we've done a lot, but we just spent a week up in Quebec City,
Oh,
um, and
phenomenal.
loved that. Um, we've been to Montreal recently. We've spent a week in 8 days in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico.
Yep.
Just those kinds of places we just like to find. And Trevin's
Yeah.
great at hunting all those things down.
Yeah, that's awesome. I haven't we've driven past Quebec City a handful of times to go to Mont Saint Anne for like professional downhill mountain biking. We're huge fans. So we've always driven past, never gone. You just mentioned it. One of my other friends just went. My friend April just went, and everybody's like, it's so convenient, and it's Europe. If you don't want to fly to Europe, it's like you're in Europe. The food's phenomenal. The architecture is gorgeous. Quebec City's a great getaway for sure.
Trevin found this restaurant, and the family's from Lyon, France. That's their background. So the food is all that culture, and
Wow.
that, which is really much. If it comes from the ground or an animal, you're going to eat it. And so we had this 12-course menu. We were about to die halfway through, but it was phenomenal. I mean, it was just it was, and one of the cleanest cities I've ever seen. Just stunning architecture, beauty
Yeah.
everywhere you looked.
Yeah, unreal. You mentioned the Cape too. I'm actually heading down there Sunday with my mom. My dad is at the military cemetery in Bourne.
Oh,
But
yeah.
you mentioned, and it's so funny because JV also grew up as a kid with her family going to the Cape, and it is going over that bridge, even though it is structurally questionable. Going over that bridge, it's a blessing and a curse. Yeah, like you're like, oh, just get me to the other side. Because if you get to the Cape side and the bridge collapses, well, we're stuck here now. Now we have to live
Fine,
here.
perfect.
Now
No
we have to
problem.
figure it out. But yeah,
That
I
would
couldn't.
be an answer from God for me. Sorry
Well,
to
God,
everyone else.
God told me we have to stay. Yeah, I'll have to do profit share from here.
I
What kind
always say it feels like you're crossing over to the other side when you cross that bridge.
it's not for everybody, but I think I'm originally a Masshole. I grew up in Chelmsford, and that's what my family did every summer. And we've got up into the last couple of years. We've done some different vacations since, but we've historically gone every summer, and it's such a good time. You've shared so much with us. I appreciate your time today. If you've got one nugget, whether it's profit share or the business or any limiting belief, if you could go back to day one, David Williams, Keller Williams, getting started, what would you change? What would you go back and tap yourself on the shoulder and say, hey, you're about to get started at Keller Williams. Do this differently this time.
I think I would have plugged in more from the beginning. It was hard, of course, because of COVID. A lot of it was a lot in person. Being in the office more, I have started being in the office and making that an intentional part of my life is to find I'm trying at least 2 days to be in the Meredith office.
Love that. Do you bring muffins? I'm asking for a friend.
So, tell your friend if he asks nicely, I will know. Yeah.
All right, I'll let him know.
Thanks. Let him know. But I think just being intentional about what I do on a day-to-day basis. I wish I'd done more of that from the very beginning, and just not letting the small stuff get to me, and realizing that success has different. It's not all the same for everybody, right?
Sure.
So I'm not getting down about this contract didn't get through. I showed this person 7,300 houses, and and I'm a failure, and not doing that, not listening, not letting that voice get to me, because I think that got in the way in the first year or so.
Awesome. I don't know how you would find time if somebody's watching or checks this out over the weekend and they've got a question for you, because you've mentioned all your history in business. You now have the bed and breakfast, your real estate sales, and then above and beyond that, you touched on. We talked a lot about profit share. You also touched on revenue, the revenue share through the global system, and the fact that you've got some relationships outside of North America. If somebody had a question for you or a referral for you, where would they call you, David? What's your number?
603-348-3732.
Perfect. I appreciate you, sir. Have a wonderful weekend. What are you guys doing this weekend? I'm sure you're packed. Are you packed?
It's a busy weekend here. We've got Holderness graduations. We've got a full house, so there's a lot of gardening and lawn mowing and things like that around the house. So we can be close to guests. So.
Stuff to do. Well, we appreciate you carving out 60 minutes for us. Have a phenomenal
My
holiday,
pleasure.
And we'll see you on the other side, sir.
Away?
Take care. No, I'm gonna go. If you. You bring so much value. If you're an investor, I remind everybody on Fridays before the market closes, just throw a couple of bucks at Titleist, because I guarantee I'm going to rifle balls into the woods this weekend, and I'll need to buy more. So the stock price always goes up for Pro V1s over the weekend. So I'll be golfing tomorrow with the boys, and then Sunday we're going to the Cape to talk to my dad. He doesn't talk back. It's very rude. And then Monday, nothing. I'm doing nothing Monday. So
Good.
So yeah, a lot of fervent prayer, both at the cemetery and the golf course. Yes.
Thank you so much, Tim, for the opportunity.
All right, sir. David Williams, thank you so much. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.